All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on what side of this beautiful country you are on. I am your host today, Tamara Ugolini, and I am joined by my recent friend and regular co-host, Lise Merle from Saskatchewan. Lise, how are you doing over there?
Well, good day, Tamara Ugolini, and good day, Canada. I'm just happy that everybody is joining us. We are your number one source of breaking ostrich news. This is what
Yes.
we are obsessed with today, and we are about to witness just about everything that makes the worst of this country. To be completely honest, we're watching things very, very closely down at the ostrich farm, and we got a lot more to talk about too, but mainly the ostriches, I think, today. Yeah.
Yeah, the ostriches will be the main theme of the show today, as the RCMP and the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspections Agency, descends or has rather descended on the farm in rural Edgewood, British Columbia. Of course, that's the Universal Ostrich Farm. So we have actually sent well, not only Drea Humphrey, our regular British Columbia correspondent, to the farm, where we discovered that she was tenting out, trying to capture this story. She flew quickly from, I understand, our Rebel birthday bash in Calgary right to the farm
She
because,
left she left the best party of the year early
yeah.
to get to the ostrich farm for you guys. This is how pressing it was for Drea Humphrey.
To
So,
save the ostriches. So
yes.
just before we get into all of that news, which as Sheila says, we're painfully live. And so sometimes things will happen while we're on air. I suspect that we have Drea and Sheila already joining us from the farm with a spotty rural connection. So we'll just warn our viewers in advance that if we lose that connection, be fair warned. But if you want to chip in and support our work and this live stream, you can do so by sending a super chat or a super thanks, depending on if you join us on Rumble or YouTube. And I think we have Drea. So why don't we just go right over to Drea at the ostrich farm? They are still alive. The RCMP is there. Drea, what's going on at the farm?
There's a lot going down. One of the intel information I had early on was that the CFIA had bought a lot of hay bales. I've mentioned that to you. We're hearing that at the edge of where you would drive into the farm, there is hay bales in that area. So we believe they're coming by. Behind me, the farmers, I'm being told, are kind of trying to have their last words, last loves, last hugs, last pecks with the birds, as they've been told they will be arrested if they don't get out of the pens. We're also hearing a company called Super Save has their fences down the road. So it sounds as though they're going to try to herd, these fast, heavy ostriches into a zone and maybe surround them with hay bales. And we know from the truck that they tried to hire before the scissor lift, they would most likely, this is guessing based on what I'm researching from how they do it in Africa. Yes, I'll get to that. Thank you. Yes, I'm aware. Just give me a sec. Perfect. Yeah, lots of stuff happening at once here. So I imagine their plan anyway is to go above and shoot down and kill these ostriches. However, the farm, their supporters, podcasters, and of course Rebel News, with breaking some of the companies involved as well, have been relentless at warning these companies, don't be a part of this. Are you aware of how controversial it is? So right now they're all on the phones calling Super Safe right now, trying to see if they can get a last minute call off. I'll remind you that Clearway car and truck rentals, after we broke their vehicles were being rented, they sent a legal letter, got their cars back. Yesterday's hero was Sunbeam. I'm talking about yesterday. I got a lot of people really wanting this information out, but I'm going to get it out right. Yesterday's hero was Sunbeam, and they called their trucks off that were right up here and said, nope, give him back. Today, we have a new hero who's backed out of the CFIA. So I'm going to invite Mike quickly, who's just been so excited to talk about it.
We have a new hero today, and it's Recon Rentals. They were seen in Vernon with their scissor lift, and their scissor lift has definitely been retracted and not used. They are our today's hero. They need these scissor lifts, and for whatever given reason, they also have retracted and indicated that they had nothing to do with this. There's no way in the world would they have any other equipment, and that is our hero of the day. Recon, thank you.
And
Thank you.
special
Thank you.
special thank you to the eyes at that hotel has been helping me out, because around 11 p.m. last night, they sent me a picture of Recon. They sent me a picture of the actual thing in the parking lot, and I sent it to Katie. And so the power of the people, power of the journalism, and that's the thing. These companies have no clue what's going on. So Super Safe Group is the correct name, Super Safe Group, and their fences are here. But the question is, do they even know what they rented their fences out? Do they know that the world is watching the story? And I do mean the world. Even China is now reporting on the ostriches behind me. We already know that Holland is as well. And of course, we know the Americans. And I haven't been watching TV, so I imagine it's far more. Everybody is looking at Edgewood, British Columbia. You've got so much resources. Hopefully you guys can still see me. But here's the police over here.
So Drea, the police,
some people are not happy with them.
The police have wardened off half of the farm. Is that what we can gather from the warrant that they've executed?
So it's not the RCMP's warrant. It's actually the CFIA's warrant under the Animal Health Act, I believe. An act with similar words to that. So that is who has jurisdiction of this part. The farm is owned by two people. So on this side, you have Karen Esperson, and on this side where the animals are, her partner, Dave Bolinski. So 20 acres is all under their jurisdiction. The farmers are still in there. They're trying to figure out, is it worth us to come out? Will that just speed up the slaughter? And remember, their lawyer, Omar Sheikh, we're told, is still trying to work on something, some last minute intervention in Supreme Court. I know last night he requested photos, from Rebel News, if we had any. He wanted to show, how this is really an emergency situation and a judge needs to make a situation immediately. So he wanted to know how many police officers were there, how many protesters were there. And so it's really down to the wire, but they're having these delays that are in fact slowing things down.
Yeah, it seems like the connection might be a little bit spotty there, but is there anything you can tell us about what they're like? These are 400 massive birds. It doesn't sound like, however they're going to go about this, it's going to be an easy feat if they end up succeeding, which it sounds like is imminent, but we just don't know when.
Sorry, you cut out just a little bit there, so I don't know exactly what your question is. 395 birds. We don't know exactly when, but the supporters here are not believing that they're going to die. And you know what? I'm so used to following the facts and logic, but to be honest, I've seen so many miracles on this farm since I've been covering it. Last minute interventions. Maybe there is something special. I interviewed a man, and you probably know this, Tamara, as soon as you take off the camera, they say something so insightful. I don't know if that happens to you, but it happens all the time. And after he said, the saying about ostriches burying their heads in the sand, these ostriches represent Canadians who have been burying their hands in the sand when it comes to government overreach. And now you have a nonpartisan issue that that encompasses all of the things. Big Pharma's wrapped up in here, farming rights is wrapped up in here, threats to our food, property rights. And so now you have Canadians taking their heads out of the sand going, why are you killing healthy birds that, wait a second, could help us fight COVID, could help us fight the avian flu? It doesn't make sense to anyone. So everybody is watching and wondering what's going to happen here.
Drea, how are the owners of Universal Ostrich Farm holding up? Because they have been under attack by their own government for months and months and months on end, while the federal government and all of the police resources are readily available. Listen, these guys go off shift, another group of guys come in, but the Universal Ostrich farmers have been abused for the last several months. How are they doing right now?
You have a camera?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And to be expected, they're a mess. They're a mess. I've been here
Yeah.
off and on for months, and I've seen them. And one of the always ask Katie is, how do you have a smile on your face? How do you look so strong? And she always says, you know, we're crying behind closed doors and things. And I've seen that too, but they're a mess. There's no smiles happening. They're terrified of what's about to happen to their birds. They're horrified that it's gotten this far, especially after having so many wins. They're not doing good. None of them are doing good. And the birds are not doing good. The birds are very used to people coming and watching them. But when the RCMP flew their drones too low yesterday, it caused mass hysteria to the point that one ran so hard into the fence, it's currently injured and isn't standing. And the CFIA, who's supposed to do this humanely, hasn't sent a veterinarian over here. So there's so much going on at once, and they're devastated that they can't simply just keep feeding and caring for their animals until the last second. Why does the state have to stop them from doing it? What is humane about that? It's absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that is an absolute travesty what's happening on that farm. But hey, other miracles have happened. So I think we'll all remain hopeful that the ostriches prevail. And if you want to follow Drea's journey and Sheila's journey yesterday, where she took 2 ferries. I don't even know how many hours it ended up taking her to get there, Drea. Can you give us that information?
Yeah, it's like a plane, trains, and whatever automobile sort of thing. I flew out, took a rental car, and she had 2 ferries to come from Alberta. I think it took her 12 hours total. And so you've got 2 rebels here. Sheila is at the end of the road to see what she could see right now when it comes to the hay bales and the fences, and then I'm over here too. This is a huge story, and a lot dies with these birds if these birds die. So Rebel News has been here. No other news has covered it as extensively as Rebel News. I've done close to 60 reports. I've been following this since last year, interviewed the scientists. All of that information is at our special website called SaveTheOstriches.com. And many of you have helped me be able to come over here, and we're asking to do the same if you want to help cover both of us. Our chief editor is here now. You know, thank you so much for that support at SaveTheOstriches.ca. And there's a one-click way where you can just very quickly go ahead and click, and a mass email goes out saying, please don't do this, to all of the people we know who are contributing to this travesty, as you say.
Yeah, this mass cull order of 400 massive birds. Like, however you look at this, I don't know how there is a humane way to possibly go about executing that sort of a cull order of that magnitude of birds of that size, who are already displaying signs of stress and seem so hypersensitive to their surroundings.
There is no humane way to kill healthy animals.
It is so tragic what's happening there. Well, thanks, Dre. Let us know if there's any updates while we're live here for the next 45 minutes or so, and maybe we can call you back on if there's any breaking news.
Sounds good. And we are going live on X and YouTube, so keep an eye. Another hero. Well, Mike, tell us.
Oh, we have some breaking heroes.
We're getting super saved if I can.
Keep doing.
Okay.
Tell us what's going on.
We've got a bale of hay just down the road, and we're going to be getting a group of people to ensure that these people do not move that hay.
Okay.
Sounds awesome.
I don't know if that's hero or what's going on, but we will be covering it at SaveTheOstriches.com and on X and YouTube. Sheila Gunn Reid, myself, Drea Humphrey, on the social medias. Share, and yeah.
All right, thanks, Drea.
You're online.
Okay, we'll stay tuned on the ostrich file as things progress. Oh, there's more.
Okay, never mind. Never mind.
All right, thanks, Drea. Okay, so stay tuned. And as Drea said, we're restreaming the ostriches, their farm live stream, where they have all their security cameras pointed to some of the action. You can see it there. We're live streaming their feed of their security cameras. So those are farm cameras. And then, of course, Sheila and or Drea will be live periodically throughout the day because the reception and the service is not great there. And I think that we've had some sort of technical difficulty with the Starlink that Sheila brought out. Anyway, there are so many moving parts with this story and with the accommodations and the food and getting in and out. And it is a very rural spot. It's a rural farm. So there's not a lot around. And it is just an absolutely astonishing story of perseverance, farm rights, property rights, of obviously, as you can see, state overreach. Like the farm can just, or the CFIA can just come in, execute a warrant, take over half of your farm, and then demand that you stop feeding and caring for your animals as they figure out some sort of like tactical way to execute a mass cull of 400 massive birds. I don't know what the weight is on average of an ostrich, but they're massive. And there's 400 of them.
That's right. And this is why this story should be of concern to every ag producer across the country of Canada. If they can do this to this little family farm in Edgewood, BC, they could do this to you. They could do this to you. And when a government gets its heels dug in to a point, to this point, where they will throw the entire weight of a government against a little family farm with a bunch of healthy ostriches, well, there is no stopping that. And so the pressure we put on them right now is already making a difference. To have eyeballs on this story, to have all of Canada and the world paying attention to this story is going to make a difference. And quick shouts to the business owners of Edgewood, BC and surrounding areas for pulling their products and their services when they learn what they're going to be used for out of, listen, I've heard of hotels. Okay, I've heard of hotels telling RCMP and law enforcement that are being repositioned into this area that they are not welcome to stay at the hotels. So we've got fencing suppliers, we've got restaurants reaching out and feeding all of these protesters. These aren't protesters, these are supporters of I shouldn't call them protesters. They're supporters of the farm. They are supporters of the farmers, reaching out and feeding them and making sure they're well cared for on the ground. But this story is garnering international attention for good reason, and it is because our public institutions have gotten so out of hand. And even though I'm hopeful, I am a hopeful person by nature, I have seen this one too many times where our government swoops in with the help of law enforcement and runs roughshod over the rights of Canadians. Okay, I've seen this one too many times, and I don't like the way this is panning out. So as many eyeballs as we can have on this story, the better.
Yeah, 100%. Document everything. And I also heard from Drea earlier this morning that the warrant doesn't allow the CFIA to do anything between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. So, there's been a history there of these sorts of things being executed in the wee hours of the night, unbeknownst to anyone who may be sleeping at the time. And that cannot happen in this situation. So the warrant doesn't allow them to do any sort of actionable things, from what I understand, between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. So during those darkness hours, they can't fall under the cloak of darkness to execute their cull orders, for instance.
Well, it makes it a lot harder to scrutinize what they're doing if they're doing it in the middle of the night, right? And so they've been stopped from doing that. That's great. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I wanted to look it up because then I was curious about it. Ostriches weigh anywhere from 220 to 350 pounds, and there's 400 of them. Like, this is a massive job, hundreds of thousands of pounds of potential carcasses that the government would have you believe are toxic and a biohazard risk
and a danger. Yes,
where
a danger
are they
to
going?
Public safety. Yes.
Yeah. So where exactly are they putting these massive carcasses? This is just an absolutely crazy story that I hope that the birds prevail and the farm perseveres through this, because I don't know how logistically they're going to execute such a thing.
Well, on the other hand, I don't know how they could ever care for them. These are complex creatures to care for. This isn't your regular house cat situation where every couple of days you check the litter box. These are animals that need almost constant care to make sure that they're healthy and happy animals. And with this, like with the government swooping in and disrupting their happy little life on their farm, is almost, well, it's torture for those poor animals, and really torture for the farmers who have spent their life raising this flock and who are looking at their entire livelihood being wiped out by an unrelenting, unforgiving, heartless federal government that has no brakes on it. So, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and
just,
there was reports that the father had to be taken to hospital via ambulance just because of the insane amounts of stress that the farmers have been put under. He's already a quadriplegic that requires extra medical care and attention. And of course, Katie and her mother have not been able to provide that to him throughout this whole fiasco. That's only where the tensions are only continuing to rise rather than get better and be quelled. So yeah, here you have Drea, one of her posts. And again, if you're not following her on X, that's likely where the most breaking news will occur, is on X or on the YouTube feeds. But yeah, she shows here that the father was taken.
Like the levels of abuse that are being heaped upon this family to withstand it by themselves, while all of the resources of the federal government are being used to fight them. It's unforgivable. It's unforgivable what is happening here. This poor family. Like I said, the federal government and the RCMP have backup guys that can come in, right? And tag team the team that's going off hours. This family has withstood months and months and months of really unforgivable pressure and abuse by the federal government. Who is going to stand up for them? Who is going to stand up for them and just say enough?
Yeah, exactly. And we have a couple super chats to read from. I think these ones came from the Ostrich Security Farm stream. Kelly May Custance gave $2. Thank you so much for that. Mark Scott gave another $2. Canada will murder birds, but not fix their economy. Yes, if this isn't any indication of the state of affairs in Canada currently, you have 400 healthy research ostriches that are facing imminent cull and deployed the full hand of the federal government, the CFIB, onto to execute this cull order. And then you have 400 organized crime groups operating within Canada, trafficking humans, fentanyl. And what does the government do? Well, they just say that they're going to keep having conversations, and they'll build maybe a new bureaucracy one day to try to help curb the crime. But we're certainly not seeing this kind of decisive action taken by the feds when it comes to 400 organized crime groups compared to 400 healthy ostriches on a rural farm in British Columbia.
It's almost mind-blowing what they prioritize. Canada, we can all see it falling apart. Okay, every single day we get another handful of stories that just tip the scales into Insanityville in Canada. And yet this is where the federal government and the RCMP prioritize their time and resources. I mean, this is just incredible. Never mind that the RCMP, and I hesitate to sort of pick on the guys that are there, but the RCMP has a huge PR problem in that Canadians don't trust them anymore because they put their own guys on the front line to be a face of this grotesque overreach of the federal government. I read somewhere real recently that 64.7% of RCMP members have a diagnosable mental health issue. Okay.
Oh yeah.
60. So here we have guys that are already in a role, playing a role that makes them more susceptible to mental health harms, and you make them do this. You put your own guys on the line, RCMP, to be the face of this. Recall them immediately. This is not your job. Nobody in their right mind thinks, yes, we should be persecuting the ostrich farmers and not the drug dealers. Nobody is saying that. Recall your men, RCMP. Grow a pair of balls.
Right. I'm laughing because like there's nothing else to do rather than laugh. Otherwise you would just cry. Because
mean,
this is the priority of our government in 2025. It's absolute bizarro upside down world.
yes.
Pleased Dog gives $10, said, if we were to put our federal government and privy council in this pen and have the ostriches replace them in parliament, the country would be a lot better off. I wholeheartedly concur.
It's like,
That's
yeah,
so
it's
true.
like 1,000 monkeys typing on 1,000 typewriters could do a better job than our current government. That this is the exact same.
Pleased
Yes.
Please Dog gives another $5, said WEF, which is the World Economic Forum, can't
Mhm.
build back better until they destroy first. A globalist banker was elected. What did we expect?
Good point.
Yeah, there you have
Not
it.
arguing.
We have another one here coming from Aaron Burton, 32, gives the $5. Lise, I had an amazing time in Banff and on the train last week. I'm excited to see Jasper one day too. I understand why you want to preserve the West, and I hope you'll accept me in the new country.
Get over here, right beside me, brother. Like right here. You belong right here. Like come back. I'm delighted to hear it. I'm just delighted.
There you go. And Nancy gives $13.99. Stop the Cull, Canada. Help these birds who have been healthy for over 200 days. And that's the thing, right? That there's no like disease prevalence within this flock and this herd. They've been healthy for, I think it's actually over 200. It's 250 days. Now, I don't quote me on that, but it's something crazy that would be, you know, why are you doing this? Plus, all attempts to try to have the birds tested to make sure that this is like a justified cull order, which I mean, by all intents and purposes, it's obviously not. But regardless, just attempting to test them has not been fruitful and has not been able to go through. So the CFIA is culling 400 healthy birds, refuses to test them, and then so they're deeming these as we said, some sort of like biohazardous waste. 350 pounds per bird. Where are you going to put that carcass? Like, do you incinerate it? Do you bury it? How is that properly and adequately disposed of? If it is this like glaring public health threat, or you know, the next bearer of disease X and the pandemic of international concern, as the WHO would have us believe, just looms around every next corner.
Well, this is why I'm concerned about the hay bales being brought in, okay? Because dry hay bales is I mean, an incendiary device on its own, right? Like it doesn't take much for a hay bale to go up in smoke. And so this is why I'm just concerned about, I'm concerned about the entire thing. Not only do I think that the federal government is incapable of humanely feeding and caring for these animals, but they're definitely incapable of killing them. And doesn't this, like that they would be able to come onto this property, strip this family of their livelihood without any mechanism for recourse, okay? Because they have their policies and they have their procedures and they have their regulations and they have their laws, and they're just following orders, farmers. And there is no mechanism for recourse is absolutely the problem. When the government overreaches in this way and there is no mechanism for people to speak to the government or even common sense when they get on this track, right? They don't listen to reason. They are heartless as it pertains to the pleas of the farmers. I cannot tell you how yesterday I was watching Drea's live stream, and the farmers are pleading with these officers, pleading for the lives of their flock of ostriches. And I've never seen anything so heartless as this, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just an outrage.
And that was one thing that really resonated with me also watching this was, and I thought to myself, I'm like, geez, there is absolutely no reasoning with these guys.
Nope.
They are there to execute their orders and they're not going to sway from it whatsoever. And that was very, I mean, we saw that also with the Freedom Convoy and the way that the, you know, SWAT style police and RCMP were unleashed onto otherwise peaceful, law-abiding protesters who were just fed up with the overreach of their government. And so it's really unsettling to see that attitude and persona persist and continue into 2025, because, you know, you always hope that it will be a turning point somewhere along the lines for police and those in authoritative or authority figures, where they say, you know what, we have to stand up and find our morality again, and do what's best for the future, our future and our children and our grandchildren. And if we don't have property rights, if we don't have any sort of rights over the land that we live on, the land that we farm on, then, you know, what's left? Is Canada really still a true free democratic country? And these police officers are playing their part in showing that it's not.
That's exactly right. They're wondering why the public's trust in the federal government is in the toilet, why the public's trust in law enforcement is in the toilet, and why the West wants to separate. Look no further than right here. This is why. Examples like this across the board. This is why the West is saying, we got nothing in common with these guys. They come in faceless robots to destroy us, and we're just supposed to be okay with it. We're just supposed to take it laying down. This is why the West wants to separate, exactly like this. And if the federal government and law enforcement don't recognize their part in their own downfall, well, then I don't know what hope there is for them. Like, it just seems to me that it would be easier to just begin again, because it's become so corrupt. Like, their corruption has become so well ingrained in their public institutions that there's almost no saving them. I can't see a path forward unless these guys leave, like right away. Leave these poor farmers alone and let this story unfold in the courts while letting the healthy animals live. I don't see a path forward. They need to leave. They need to leave,
Right,
all of them.
That's another great point, is that this is still, like, the lawyer is still trying every legal avenue possible to save the ostriches. And so there's a stay order that has been filed, I believe, just this morning, or maybe it was yesterday morning. My days are a little bit mixed up. But there's a new stay order to try to at least push the cull. And again, I just keep coming back to, why can't you test the birds? I mean, you know, the test, all the issues with the PCR test and the cycle thresholds and all those things aside, at least entertain it, right? At least say, you know what? Yeah, logically, these birds have been healthy for almost a year. So maybe we should just test a couple of them and see what's going on. But
well, do
no
recall just 5 short years ago where you couldn't go to a restaurant without testing, right? Like, everything, everybody was like, your 4-year-old, you had to, you know, hold down on the couch to do the test to go out in public. And now they're like, no, testing is bad and it's wrong, and we've said no to it. I mean, what are they so scared of? And I would argue that the federal government, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, is real concerned that that the tests, if we were to test those ostriches, they would come back healthy animals. And then what could the Canadian federal government do? What would they do if we got tests back that said, no, these ostriches are fine, they recovered from their avian flu, which they were susceptible to being birds? Like, sometimes that happens, right?
Yeah, people are like, oh, well, how did they get the avian flu? It's like, get this, they live outside in the wild.
There are other passing birds that encountered and it's the avian flu. And so how do your kids get the flu at school? Same thing. They caught it from another kid. Same thing. Like, it's not rocket science. And yet we have the federal government saying there's only one way to deal with this, and it is to kill them all. Does not put that in perspective. Like, they do it. Listen, we shouldn't be surprised, because they do it with MAID on actual Canadians. This is just the uncaring, faceless, gross nature of our federal government showing itself once again.
Once you point out how ghoulish they act to actual humans, it's unsurprising that they're like, 400 healthy birds that are like an entire family's livelihood, and they've come to bond with over the 35 years roughly that they've owned them. Well, we'll just kill them all. Just do away with them. It's like, it gives me Cruella de Vil vibes. Anyway, we have a couple more super chats. Silverfeet gives $5. Wile E. Coyote versus the Roadrunner. I wonder how this story ends. That's an interesting
An anvil.
correlation.
Ooh, I like it. With the anvil dropping. Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe just lead them towards. Anyway, the name cuts off, so I'm sorry. It just says George's boy something gives $2. Thanks very much for that. And then I think I'll just go to a quick ad read. We'll take an ad break, and then we'll come back for some other news and see if we have anything developing with the ostriches also when we come back. So the ad read that we have today comes from the Wellness Company. It's about their ultimate spike detox. Does your immune system feel compromised ever since COVID? A new study published in the Journal of Clinical Laboratory Analysis suggests you may not be in the clear, even if you feel fine. Researchers analyzed blood from people who had recovered from COVID and found something concerning. Their platelets, which are essential for healthy blood clotting, were not functioning properly even months after recovery. Other studies have found lingering spike proteins in the bloodstream and organs, causing immune system dysfunction and even mitochondrial damage, whether from the virus or mRNA shots. This is why Dr. Peter McCullough developed Ultimate Spike Detox. This doctor-formulated blend includes nattokinase to help break down spike protein, bromelain to support immune health, and turmeric with black pepper to reduce inflammation and repair cells. Take back control of your health today and head to twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL to get 10% off, because it's time to own your health. All right, and then we'll just go to a quick...
Rebel News now has premium memberships on X, Locals, and right here on YouTube. For just $4.99 a month on YouTube, you'll get loyalty badges, custom emojis, and access to members-only chats during our live streams. At $8.99 a month, you'll also unlock Rebel News Plus shows and our documentaries. But here's the catch. YouTube could cancel that premium tier at any time. That's why the best way to support us is at rebelnewsplus.com. It's just $8 a month, cheaper if you go annual, and you'll get exclusive extras like an ad-free site, comments access, and even the chance to submit op-eds. Wherever you join us, thanks for keeping our independent journalism alive and strong.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of...
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us. Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA hats to introduce, well, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
All right, before we take a small break in other news from the ostriches, I just wanted to read this other super chat that we have from Mary Kay Styles gives $6.99. Thank you very much. If the feds that are standing there are so afraid of disease, why are they not protecting themselves? Yeah, that's a really great point also. And I believe Drea, I don't know where in her feed it was, but she did post, or I saw it somewhere in the Twitter or the X verse, that the CFIA members were going into the pens and then coming back out and then traveling into town. And so this idea that these are like, this is some super spreader event. I mean, I guess we'll see, because it's the government and the feds themselves who would probably be responsible for that, because I don't see any sort of precautionary measures being taken. You know, there's no hazmat suits, there's no masks, there's no gloves. If there's such a biohazard risk here, then where's all of that protocol?
Yeah, exactly that.
We have 400 healthy ostriches who are facing an imminent cull, kill them all order. And then we also have 400 organized crime groups operating within Canada. And it's just, well, we're going to have some conversations and get a new border czar and hope that his conversations will hopefully stop the crime. And our Minister of Justice, Sean Fraser, you know, the same guy who told us all that Canada's not the Wild West, even though it kind of feels like the Wild West because of the proliferation of crime and injustice plaguing our streets, with recurrent criminals being repeatedly released on bail to reoffend. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the Wild West to him, because he lives up in his ivory tower away from all of the chaos descending on our streets. So he has just introduced a new hate crime bill, and here's what he had to say about it.
Okay, so sorry, what is there a question? Oh yeah, you want to know each of the different sentencing guidelines? That'd be nice. Yeah, sure. So let me flip open to the specific page.
Not off to a good start.
What's
here.
That? Oh, just on symbols. Yeah, so I think we're dealing with a two-year penalty. So, sorry, I'm looking at different things. Let me deal with the hate penalty first. So if you're found guilty of an indictable offense, a maximum penalty under the hate crime, it will be 5 years. If the maximum term of imprisonment for the included offense is 2 years or more, but less than 5 years. 10 years if the maximum term of imprisonment is included offense is 5 years or more, but less than 10 years. 14 years if the maximum term of imprisonment is the included offense is 10 years or more, but less than 14 years. And life if the maximum term of imprisonment for the included offense is 14 years or more, and up to imprisonment for life. Intimidation, where are we here?
I don't even think he knows anything about where he is.
If you're guilty of an indictable offense, you'd be liable to imprisonment for a term of not more than 10 years. I've now skipped past the hate symbols piece. My apologies.
This might
how did these people get into these positions?
The lunatics are running the asylum.
This is crazy. Don't come for me, because this isn't hate speech, but this guy has no idea what he's doing.
Absolutely.
For the punishment, everyone who commits an offense under the relevant section is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years, or is guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction, where there'd obviously be discretion in the circumstances.
I wonder if the journalist even knows how to report on that answer. Like, what? I'm so confused. What was he even talking about?
All he did was count upwards: 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Hate symbols. Nobody knows what they're talking about. But really, what this is why this should concern Canadians is because we're following the same trajectory as the United Kingdom. And in Britain, listen, if you say something that the government doesn't like, they will come and pick you up and throw you in jail. Like moms who are defending their little communities in Britain have been thrown in jail for 30 months or something like this. Like it is incredible. The number of Brits that have been arrested for hate speech violations or thought crimes. This is what we're going to usher into Canada. Well, I look forward to being your bunkies at the re-education camp, Canada.
Yeah, look, here's a clip of what you're talking about from the UK.
So here's two police officers questioning a mother on the behavior of their minor child on social media. This is what they will send the police to your house. They will demand to see your devices, and they can convict you and throw you in jail inside a week. This is what we're going to do in Canada. Well, we have actual criminals and crime is out of control. This is what we're going to throw people in jail for their thoughts. This is insane.
For posting symbols. And let me just remind you that just in the last few weeks, one case in particular, the Welland trans identifying male who assaulted a baby, a toddler sleeping peacefully in her bed at night.
After previously being convicted of another sex crime against a child. Yes.
Yes, that had been released early after serving, I think it was just shy of 2 years or 2.5 years for assaulting another child in almost the same manner, was released on the streets, back out within 6 months, reoffends a toddler so horrifically that she had to have, from what I gather, reconstructive surgery for the extensive injuries suffered. And it is absolutely anyone's worst nightmare what occurred. And these are the people who will be eligible for sweat lodge healing because they identify as the opposite gender. So this guy in Welland, he identifies now as a woman, and his social media, his Facebook page specifically, was like, finally figured it out. And I would say to that, that you're an absolute disgraceful weirdo. But nonetheless, because they'll feign visible minority and protected group, they'll be sent off to a healing sweat lodge to serve out the rest of their sentence, if they even get any sort of sentence at all. And then you have our Justice Minister, Sean Fraser, telling Canadians, oh, this isn't the Wild West, it's Canada, and prioritizing a hate crime bill focusing on hate symbols, I would say probably online. And meanwhile, you have, there's not even a definition of hate built into any of the criminal code or any of this legislation. So apparently this is the start of making that definition clearer. But I mean, this guy, these priorities are not only completely backwards and mixed up, but he doesn't even know what the heck he's up there talking about.
Well, and not only that, but would pointing out that trans women are disproportionately more likely to be convicted of sex offenses be considered a hate crime? Because we are just pointing out the obvious and the statistical probability of these guys doing terrible things to women and children. Like, would that be considered a hate crime? And far be it for me to tell the federal government what to do, because they always know what's best, guys. Okay, they know what's best for you. But if somebody is walking down the street with a Nazi symbol, say, I know, I like it, okay? Because I know that they are my enemy. I know when the enemies show themselves with their symbols, it's good because it shows you who they are. And I would even go so far as to say progress pride flags I would put in that group. Okay, I would put union insignias in that group. When your enemies show you who they are, it is great for you. You know who to avoid. And with this kind of legislation, with broad sweeping safeguards to keep people from being exposed to this, well, it just helps those people hide better. Like, what on earth are they doing? And what do they think that they're going to accomplish? I think that this is a massive overreach on Canadians' freedom of expression. And it is a way for the federal government to censor and otherwise silence dissent. This is all it is. They don't like what we're saying, so they want to stop us from saying it.
Every single time, right? Every single time. And that's what I love so much about freedom of expression, is that even if I don't agree with you, at least you've shown me who you are.
Exactly.
At least you've played out your cards. You've shown me your hand. Okay, now I know this is a person that I can, actively condemn or steer clear of or avoid, what have you. That's the beautiful part that I appreciate of freedom of expression. and why I think we should all be free to express ourselves, because then I'll know exactly who to avoid and who I don't want to be like. So anyway, moving right along, we also have the Premier of Ontario, who is supposed to be a conservative, but is more progressive than the latter. He says that other municipalities should follow the city of Barrie's lead. So Barrie in Ontario recently declared a state of emergency because of the rise in homelessness and the opioid crisis, and of course the resultant encampments situation. So he thinks that other municipalities should follow suit, and says that the crime and criminality and drugs that come with encampments are disgusting.
Touching again on your visit in Barrie with the encampments, where they've declared a state of emergency there, how do you feel about that approach, and if other municipalities should follow suit?
100% they should.
And what is the answer to the encampments?
Well, making sure they get roofs over their head, because when they raided that one encampment, I think they found over, 80, 90 shelter places for them. 3 refused it, or 4 refused it. I'm asking the guy that got caught with $9,000 in his tent, what are they doing? When I went there, a woman walked by a group of us and said, I could be murdered if they caught me talking to you. You know how much drugs are in that encampment? You know how much cocaine's in that encampment? I'm quoting her. And, it's disgusting. It really is disgusting. We have put hundreds of millions of dollars for helping people with shelters. And then when you have people addicted to drugs, we're putting heart hubs in. We're spending over $500 million trying to help people get support for their addiction, get them back on their feet, getting them a job, putting a roof over their heads. But I'm not going to tolerate them hijacking a neighborhood. And it's neighborhood by neighborhood. Until you live across from one of these encampments, no one has a clue how they affect the neighborhood. You can't even walk down the street without being harassed. But less than 1% of the people are not going to harass 99% of the population.
Yeah, for the lover of states of emergency, how about we just stop pouring money on a dumpster fire and start actually enforcing the laws, right? Like, we have laws against trespassing, against encampments, against drug use, open air drug use, drug trafficking. Why is none of that being enforced? There are obvious ways to deal with this problem, and we have weak government that refuses to do so, and instead would rather throw money at the problem and hope that it goes away. But instead it's just padding the pockets of upper management of some of these places. And we're a couple years out from it now. He's not realizing it yet.
Well, and not only are the encampments not good, but nor are the agencies that are swooping in to swallow up all of those emergency dollars to help solve the problem. Just for instance, in Regina, the YWCA built a brand new shelter in a residential area. I tweeted about this the other day, guys. I don't know if you can find it on my X profile. But what they found within just a couple weeks of the YWCA, with all of their emergency shelter places opening up within this residential subdivision, is that the community has been plunged into chaos because of drug use, because of violence, because of chaos, and the things that that the people that are taking the emergency dollars and stuffing their pockets with are then failing in the same way. So it's just like a more expensive way to fail. And when we get right down to it, all of these marginalized people that are suffering from compounding, take your pick, mental health disorders, you got addictions issues, you got all compounding poverty, you know what I mean? Like, these people have major compounding issues. And when you cram them all into the same space, chaos. Look at this. Residents voiced concerns over YWCA Regina shelter and calling for action. Well, no kidding. But this is what we get when we warehouse these people within residential within residential areas, and this is one removed. Remember, YWCA of Regina is getting mega dollars from the provincial government to help with this issue. And this is what we're going to see across the board. When it comes down to it, all of these people were pushed out of their housing, and their availability to receive drug, whether it be drug treatment or mental health supports or whatever they need to be functioning members of society, they've been pushed out of all of those programs because of the amount of new immigrants that we brought into this country. The end.
Yeah, there you have it. Straining all of the systems and leaving Canadians and those who came here the proper way out, hang to dry out in the dark.
Sure.
Let's hit a quick ad break and we'll come back to hopefully one more topic. We'll see if there's any ostrich updates, and then we'll say goodbye.
At first, it was extremely painful to realize that my daughter and we weren't stable. Without reaching out for help, I don't know where we would have ended up. The day that I started realizing that I feel really good about my position in life, I came in with my shoulders rolled back, my chin up, and it was just like I did this.
All right, the last story that I wanted to just touch on quickly is the announcement from President Trump yesterday that taking Tylenol is associated with a increased chance or risk of autism, and it is making the rounds all over social media. And of course, here in Canada, our mainstream media and their parroted TV doctors, as well as some of our ministers of health, have chimed in, denouncing Trump as anti-science and, all the rhetoric that we hear them typically claim against Trump for just, simply saying, maybe Tylenol is not so great. Only take it if you're being advised by your doctor. Well, here, you don't have to take it from me. We have, I don't know, we don't have to play the whole clip, but it's about a minute and a half of what Trump said himself yesterday.
Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it.
Yeah,
it's not good.
So there you go. He says it's not good, and then he says maybe go consult with your doctor. And I mean, I would say that's pretty tepid advice for anybody. Maybe just pharmaceutical products, if you really need them, they're there for you. But if you don't, you can avoid it. Maybe it's best to do that, especially in pregnancy. And if you're wondering, if you have more questions, go talk to your doctor. And then I just wanted to share here, maybe this will tie in, maybe this can just be our daily dose of cringe, because the other one I thought was just a little bit too grotesque. This is Josie Osborne, who I never even knew existed, but she's the British Columbia Minister of Health. So she's here posting to X and says, as BC's Minister of Health, I look south with dismay and concern. Powerful figures pushing junk science, claiming Tylenol causes autism. So he actually didn't claim that just right off the bat. This puts everyone at risk. So here's the hate speech that the Liberals are going to try to criminalize. Yep. Misleading families is dangerous. Science matters. Evidence matters. People deserve better than conspiracy theories. And I just reposted this and I said, why aren't Canadian health ministers following the science? Because it's not actually hard to find the science that shows that prolonged or frequent use of acetaminophen, which is the active ingredient in Tylenol, during pregnancy is associated with higher rates of neurodevelopmental disorders in children. And I quote in there, Yale research study, an article from the Yale School of Public Health. And it's conveniently not there anymore. Wow. Okay. So they've removed that link from the Yale School of Public Health. It was about the research. You can still see at least I can still see the URL. So the URL was what the research says about autism and Tylenol use during pregnancy. And in there, they quote one of their professors who's working on groundbreaking research and diving into this association to try to either, prove or dispel it. And so I have some quotes from him in the article I wrote. I'm really glad I pulled out those quotes because I guess they've removed the article. I'm going to have to dig up on the Wayback Machine and see if I can find it. But one of the quotes from that link that has now mysteriously disappeared, it said frequent or, as I quoted already, frequent and prolonged. And I'm just going to pull up my article about it because I also quoted him. And I don't know if we can show it on the screen quickly, but he said, though they caution that these observational studies are far from conclusive, this professor conducting the extensive research into Tylenol use during pregnancy relayed that studies do show associations between frequent use of Tylenol in pregnancy and some negative effects on a child's neurodevelopment, and that these associations need to be thoroughly evaluated.
Sure. And this is an incredible development within the sphere of public health, because Tylenol is recommended to women in pregnancy. And as a matter of fact, it's one of the only drugs that a postpartum woman, so a woman who has just given birth in a hospital, has full access to without a nurse, okay? Because the nurses say, well, if we were called, if our buzzer was rung every time somebody needed a Tylenol, then that's all that we would ever do. And so Tylenol is meted out to pregnant and postnatal women like candy. And if what we are discovering is that either the Tylenol itself has the potential to harm babies and children, or if Tylenol, when prescribed to treat the side effects of childhood immunizations, makes those harms worse, well, then every parent in the entire world needs to know about it. And this has been the prevailing treatment plan for mothers and babies for the last, 50 years, Tamara? And we're just getting around to taking a real good hard look at it. That they took down that article, Tamara.
I found it.
Okay, you did.
I found it. So thank you so much to the Wayback Machine. Archive.org. You can find a lot of things. And I usually try to make sure that I save those kinds of links. But I was like, it's Yale. It's the Yale School of Public Health.
It's been up for you're not going to take it down, and look what happened.
And look what they did. So here it is.
The medical community trying to quickly bury
their own research.
Just insane.
My goodness. So anyway, now it makes me want to make sure that all of you read this article now that they've tried to remove it and change the hyperlink so you can't find it easily anymore. But anyway, for anyone, I did pull out what I thought was the key kind of sentiment of the article, was that we need to look at these associations, and there is a professor who's conducting that research, and he's quoted in this article as saying it's something that we need to look further into. So yeah, I would say take the advice you're receiving from Canada's state broadcaster and their TV doctors with a grain of salt, and look at some of the research yourself, because observational studies, although they aren't necessarily the gold standard of scientific data and safety testing, they definitely provide a good glean into what we should be looking further into. And
Sure.
so when several observational studies are finding the same thing, and it doesn't necessarily mean autism, but anything neurodevelopmental, that is things like Asperger's, autism,
Sure.
other random, learning behaviors, developmental delays, neurological concerns. Like these are things that
Sure.
can devastate an entire life. And we should definitely be looking more into it if there is that association. So
Without question. I mean,
yeah,
without question. So to challenge the prevailing narrative, though, we know how hard that is. Look at what's happened, especially in Canada and Australia, with the gender affirming care model, and
Mhm.
how slowly they are to disassociate from an obviously awful and probably the biggest medical scandal of our time. Look how slowly they move on this. Well, Tylenol has got some very, very deep pockets, okay? And they've got some big advertising dollars. So they're not going to go quietly into the dark night. They're going to fight this tooth and nail. But I think that all of us can admit that, even like, I know that I'm a little bit older than most of you. Okay, I'm an 83-year-old woman, but back in the olden days, we
No.
didn't have we didn't have the amount of kids with autism that we do today. We can all just look around and say, my goodness, where did this come from? And to ask that question is a noble question, and to try and chase down the cause of autism in Western society is very important. So no matter what they try and do, we need to keep an eye on this. We need to keep an eye on
Exactly.
this.
Yeah. What's going on with the autism stuff? What's going on with kids' neurodevelopmental issues?
Sure.
Like, why it should not be taboo to ask questions and leave no stone unturned, right? These
It's
are
the
our
least
children. That's our
It's the
future.
least controversial thing you can do is work to safeguard children, to
Absolutely.
make sure that they don't come to harm. It's the
Yes.
least controversial thing you can do. And you know what? If somebody has to just live with their little headache for a little while, you know what I mean?
9
Figure out
months.
every day, right? Every day. If it means a better outcome for the child, well, then we should be exploring this. We should be putting a lot of energy into it.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I see that Drea has maybe confirmed that company that was bringing the hay bales that are parked near the farm have said that they want their trucks back. So they're trying to recall their trucks from the farm. So that is a new development that just occurred during this live stream. If you want to stay up to date, you want to find out more, and you want to support Drea's stay, Sheila's journey, all of the moving parts that we have deployed onto the ostrich farms to make sure that you get on the ground reporting, you can do that at savetheostriches.com. And then of course, follow them both on X and or follow the feeds on YouTube. So thanks in advance for all of your support. We do have there you can see Drea with the hay bale trucks in the background there. So apparently they've recalled those trucks.
Amazing.
And they want them all back. So
amazing. And you know what?
Stay tuned.
You know what's so,
this is a developing story.
You know what's so beautiful about this is the neighbors in the area who are going to have to live with the fallout of this, right? They're seeing their farmer friends being abused, and they're seeing their farmer friends suffering, and the local businesses are saying, not by our hand, you don't. And you see them backing out. And this is what you have to do in the face of government overreach, as great as this. Kudos to those small businesses that are on the right side of this, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the government doesn't want to have entrepreneurs, and why they've worked so hard the last few years to squash out those small business owners and then continue to pile on and bloat the bureaucracy, because this is the kind of resistance that you will see when people have the means to do their part.
Oh, it reminds me so much of the Coots protest, when the government was trying to find tow trucks to take away, and they could not find a tow truck, not in the entire province of Alberta. They looked south into the United States. Do you think tow truck drivers would come to the United States to take away those pieces of equipment? Absolutely not. So we are seeing shades of this happening here, and keep going, BC. You defend your farmers and neighbors against this. Yeah, you defend them.
Just quickly before we wrap things up, Suka's Life, I hope I pronounced that correctly, gives $5 and says, is Rebel News Australia reporting on this? Before the birds are put down, the countries of this world must learn what the WHO is trying to pull off here. Big Pharma is against natural immunity. Yeah, there's a lot of things. And I think that there's the World Health Organization, their guidance, their guidelines, the new pandemic treaty, accord, whatever it ended up being called.
Those are just part of this humongous machine. This is just part of one of the many of the moving little pieces in this. Yeah.
They have what are called stamping out policies. And so this cull order is presumably part of those higher up guidelines that we've all been signed on to by our senior level bureaucrats. Thank you, to no part in actual democracy, as part of WHO adjacent or direct guidelines.
Stamp it out. Like this is what
stamping out policies.
Apply that to humans and tell me that doesn't put a chill in your blood. Like apply that to humans. There was I got just a real quick story. My son back in, I want to say it was the late 2000s, brought swine flu back from Mexico. Okay, we went to Mexico. He caught a bug, brought it back to Canada. Would they stamp him out? Would they stamp him out? And everybody that had access to him? Like, just think about this applied on a human level, Canada, and ask yourself, am I okay with them doing this to people next? Because that is the logical next step.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope of the totalitarian tiptoe, as I like to call it. Spirit Whisperer 2021 gives $10. Hi from Victoria, BC. The CFIA will definitely put a great show on for the government-funded main media, including lying and saying the ostriches were sick with the bird flu. Yeah, you know what? The silence from the mainstream media and also the conservative government, supposed to be like, the opposition. It's very telling.
They be clown themselves. They be clown themselves. Shame on the federal government, especially the conservatives, for not getting on this a little bit sooner. I do believe that they will. I do believe that they'll be forced to address it, because the story, with your help, viewers, is reaching critical mass where they can't ignore it anymore. Okay. And so they will be forced to say something or to do something or to act, hopefully, okay, on behalf of these poor ostrich farmers. But the mainstream media be clowning themselves while they do their little reports from their ivory towers. You just remember, Canada, who was on this story first and who's not going to let it go until it sees its natural and hopefully positive outcome for the farmers. It's Rebel News. You are
That's
welcome.
right. And head on over savetheostriches.com, find out more and support this kind of journalism there. Thanks everyone for joining us. Lise, thanks for joining me today, and to all the people who make sure that all the links are ready and all the words are there. Everybody who pitched in on the live stream. Without all of you, we wouldn't be able to do this work. So thanks everyone. And until next time, stay sane and question everything.
Yeah, 252 days have been entirely healthy. Their eggs are used in medical research for COVID-19 and of course for avian flu. If they are killed, if they are killed, then that research.
Right. I'm just going to interrupt to update on what's happening. So you can see the police are all standing here and they want to speak with the farmers, but we're not allowed to go over there. So my understanding was Jeff was going to try to get them to come over this way so we could all be present. And so I'm going to walk you guys over here because I think they're going to drive this way. But look, they've been here all night. And you guys should know that the warrant, by the way, that was issued allowed us to get a little bit of sleep. The warrant says that nothing can be done by the CFIA. By the way, it's the CFIA's warrant, not the RCMP's. And it says that after 9 p.m. and before 6 a.m., they're not allowed to, do any of their duties. So everybody was allowed to, not sleep with one eye open for a little bit there. So that was really nice. So here, what's happening is they're saying, no, if you want to talk to the farmers, do it where everybody can see. So they're walking over this way.
It's not going to get any better over here with the loud.